Welcome to VSOW. Let's do this. We're diving deep today into Captain America.
Yeah.
Specifically, how The Falcon and the Winter Soldier tackles race and representation in America.
Big topic.
We've got analyses of the show.
Right.
We've got some historical context of Captain America as a character.
Of course.
And we've even got some opinions on what a black Captain America means.
Lots to unpack there.
Our mission today
Yeah.
is to understand how this show
Okay.
reflects
Right.
and perhaps challenges evolving American values.
I think that's a great way to put it.
What I think is so interesting about this show
Yeah.
is that Falcon and the Winter Soldier seems to be kind of shifting away from the overt military glorification
Absolutely.
that we saw in some of those earlier Marvel films.
You think about like Iron Man,
Right.
the first Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Those projects had heavy involvement from the Department of Defense.
Right. The DoD
Yeah.
had significant influence,
Yeah.
even going so far as having script approval privileges.
It's fascinating
It is
to see how that relationship has evolved,
Yeah.
especially considering they had access to military equipment and location.
All in exchange for portraying the military favor.
And it makes you wonder how much control they really had
Right.
and how much push and pull there was behind the scenes.
Totally.
And this shift is evident in how Falcon and the Winter Soldier handles
Okay.
Isaiah Bradley's story.
Yeah.
For those unfamiliar, he's a black super soldier,
Right.
a product of secret government experiments,
Yeah.
and then essentially erased from history.
Wow.
His narrative kind of mirrors real-world events,
Yeah.
like the Tuskegee syphilis study,
Oh, wow.
where black men were exploited under the guise of medical care.
That's a chilling parallel.
Absolutely.
It forces viewers to kind of confront this hypocrisy that's woven into the fabric of
Yeah.
American ideals.
You have these grand narratives of freedom and equality.
And then juxtaposed with that,
right alongside
the harsh realities
Yeah.
of systemic racism.
the oppression
Yeah.
faced by black Americans throughout history.
And the show doesn't just keep it in the past.
No,
It brings it right into the present
absolutely.
through Sam Wilson,
Right.
who is grappling with becoming Captain America while also being acutely aware of the nation's history
Yeah.
of racial injustice.
It's a layer of complexity
Right.
that Steve Rogers,
The original Captain America.
the original Captain, never had to face.
There's that one scene where Sam and Bucky Barnes
Right.
get stopped by those police officers.
Oh, yeah.
And it is so stark,
It's brutal.
the difference in treatment based on their race.
Yeah, it's like a gut punch
It is.
that underscores the everyday racism
Right.
that black people still encounter.
Even in a world with super soldiers and aliens.
Exactly. Even in the MCU.
You can't escape it.
That scene,
Yeah.
though brief, it dismantles that idealized notion of Captain America.
Right.
It brings the conversation about race and representation down to the lived experiences of black individuals.
Challenging this traditional narrative.
Of American exceptionalism,
Right.
which has always been a part of the Captain America mythos.
Then you have the introduction of a black Captain America.
Right.
Which further complicates this whole narrative.
Absolutely.
It forces viewers to reconsider what the symbol represents
Yeah.
and what it means for a black man to carry that mantle.
It's sparked a fascinating debate,
It really has.
with some criticizing it as just performative activism, while others see it as a significant step
Right.
toward greater representation.
And I think both sides have valid points.
I think so too.
It's not a simple issue,
No, it's not.
but the fact that we're having this conversation at all,
Right?
I think speaks volumes
I think so too.
about how far we've come,
Yeah,
but also how far we still have to go.
absolutely.
Some of the criticisms highlight the show's limitations.
Oh, yeah.
Some people argue that it doesn't dedicate enough screen time
Right.
to the racial issues, or that the resolutions feel
Yeah.
too swift and superficial.
It's like trying to address these really deep-rooted issues,
Right.
but they're not quite going deep enough.
But on the other hand,
Yeah,
there's a valid argument for the impact of representation.
absolutely.
Even if it's not perfect,
Yeah.
seeing a black man as Captain America,
Yeah.
especially for younger generations,
Right.
that can be incredibly meaningful.
It can challenge those ingrained assumptions
Right.
about race and heroism.
We have to consider the internal struggle
Right.
that Sam Wilson faces, because unlike Steve Rogers,
Yeah.
he represents a country
Right.
that has historically oppressed people who look like him.
And that adds a whole other layer to
Please
his
tell us.
journey as Captain America.
And I think that's where the show's brilliance lies.
Tell me more.
it doesn't offer these easy answers.
Yeah.
It doesn't shy away from these complexities
Right.
of race and representation in America.
It's messy.
It is.
And it's complicated.
It really is.
And I think that's a good thing.
It raises more questions than it answers.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you think
It does.
about the nation's past,
Yeah.
its present,
Uh-huh.
and its potential for change.
Yeah. And it makes you think about your own role in all of that.
Right.
And that's powerful.
That's what good art should do.
It should make you uncomfortable.
Exactly.
It should make you question things.
And I think this show does that.
I think it does too.
This complexity extends to Captain America's evolution as a character.
Oh, yeah.
He's moved from being this straightforward symbol of patriotism,
Right. From blindly following the government's lead.
almost blindly,
Yeah.
to this more morally complex figure.
In the early comics and films,
Mhm.
he was battling Nazis
Right.
and communists.
Very clear cut.
A clear-cut hero.
Yeah.
Upholding the status quo,
But
then start to shift.
We see a shift.
He becomes more of a symbol of the nation's conscience.
Yeah.
He starts questioning authority
Mhm.
and directly addressing social issues.
And in the comic storylines,
Oh, yeah.
they delve into some really complex topics.
Diversity,
Right.
immigration.
Even police brutality.
It's not shying away from anything.
No.
He's become a figure who calls out hypocrisy
Yeah.
and fights for justice,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means going against the very government he once represented.
Which is a huge shift
It is.
from where he started.
And I think it mirrors a growing distrust of institutions
Mhm.
and a more critical examination of American exceptionalism.
Right.
He's no longer just a symbol of military might.
Yeah.
He's a champion of ideals.
Even when America itself fails to live up to them.
And that makes his journey so compelling.
And that makes Sam Wilson's Captain America even more impactful.
Right, because he's carrying on that legacy.
Exactly.
But he's also bringing his own experiences
Mhm.
and perspectives to the role.
He represents a different kind of patriotism.
One that acknowledges America's flaws,
Yeah.
but also strives for its potential.
And he understands this question.
Of marginalized communities,
Right.
and he actively seeks to uplift them.
This vision of Captain America
Yeah.
really challenges viewers.
It makes you think.
What does true patriotism mean?
Right.
Is it blind allegiance?
Yeah.
Or is it holding our nation accountable to its ideals?
And I think that's a question that we're all grappling with right now.
It's more relevant than ever.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And that brings us back to Marvel's relationship
Oh, yeah.
with the U.S. government.
Right.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
Yes.
Considering the DoD's influence
Right.
on those earlier films.
Yeah. Falcon and the Winter Soldier seems to be taking a more critical stance.
Yeah, it's almost like a deliberate departure
Right.
from that previous collaboration
Mhm.
by directly addressing the government's historical
And present-day mistreatment
Yeah.
of Black people.
Yeah.
The show seems to be kind of subverting the very system
Right.
that played a role in its creation.
Yeah. That tension adds a layer of complexity
Oh, it does.
to the narrative
Absolutely.
because it raises questions about Marvel's creative freedom
Mm-hmm.
in tackling these sensitive issues.
On whether they're genuinely committed to
Right.
engaging with them
Yeah.
or simply making a calculated move.
To appeal to a more socially conscious audience.
It's a valid question.
It is. Are they truly pushing boundaries,
Right.
challenging the status quo?
Or is it just a form of
Yeah.
calculated storytelling?
Right. And how does that impact the show's message?
It's a question that deserves further exploration,
Absolutely.
especially as the MCU continues
Right.
to tackle more complex
Yeah.
social and political issues.
Now, going back to the Black Captain America debate,
It really boils down to whether it genuinely changes anything.
within a system
Yeah.
steeped in racial inequality.
That's the core question, isn't it?
I think so.
Is it a true shift in power and representation?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it simply a symbolic gesture?
And we have articles that argue both sides.
Right.
Some argue it's the latter,
Okay.
pointing out that a Black Captain America still exists
Right.
within a system that continues
Yeah.
to disenfranchise
Right.
and marginalize.
And marginalized Black people.
Yeah. It's like treating a systemic problem
Right.
with a superficial solution.
Like putting a Band-Aid
Exactly.
on a deep wound.
It might look better on the surface,
Right.
but the underlying problem remains.
But on the other hand.
However,
Yeah.
others see it as a vital step forward.
Wow.
They argue that representation matters,
Okay.
that seeing a Black man in this iconic role
Right.
can inspire future generations and challenge those preconceived notions about race and heroism.
We have to consider the impact on the Black community itself.
Absolutely.
What does it mean for Black children to see someone who looks like them wielding Captain America's shield?
It's an incredibly powerful image.
It is.
One that can shift cultural narratives
Right.
and inspire a sense of hope and possibility
It's about reclaiming a symbol.
that has historically been associated with white supremacy and imbuing it with a new meaning.
It's a statement of visibility and belonging.
Saying, we are here, we are worthy, and we deserve to be represented.
And that message can be incredibly empowering.
It can.
But we have to go beyond representation.
Yes, we do.
It's also about how the character is written, how his experiences as a Black man are portrayed authentically.
And I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier does make a conscious effort to address this.
We see Sam wrestling with the weight
of carrying that shield.
Right. Knowing he represents a country.
With a long history of oppressing people like him.
That scene where he and Bucky experience that disparate treatment.
From the police.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example.
Of how the show grounds the conversation about race in everyday realities.
It highlights the burden of representation that Sam carries.
He's not just Captain America. He's a Black Captain America.
Navigating a world that views him through a racial lens.
While also upholding those ideals. The shield represents.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
And the show portrays it with nuance.
It does.
It raises the question.
Can a Black Captain America truly challenge the status quo?
Or does he inevitably become absorbed by the system he's trying to change?
It's almost as if he's caught between two worlds.
The
one he wants to represent and the one that struggles to fully accept him.
That tension makes his journey compelling.
It does. Now let's shift our focus to the evolution of Captain America as a symbol. It's fascinating how he's transformed from this straightforward, patriotic icon to a more complex, nuanced character.
He's no longer just about military might and blind patriotism.
He's become a symbol of the nation's conscience.
Challenging authority, fighting for what he believes is right.
Even when it's unpopular.
And his transformation really reflects the changing social
and political
landscape of America.
He's evolved into a voice of dissent. Calling out hypocrisy and injustice wherever he sees it.
He's more than a superhero. He's a symbol of hope, resistance.
And the possibility of a better future.
And that's why making Sam Wilson the new Captain America is so significant.
Because it represents a continuation of that evolution.
It acknowledges that the ideals Captain America embodies need to be represented by someone who understands the struggles.
Of those who have been marginalized and who will fight
for a more just
and equitable
society.
It sends a powerful message.
He does.
To those who has historically been excluded.
From those ideals.
They too can be heroes and fight for what they believe in.
And that message resonates far beyond comics and movies.
It does.
It speaks to the ongoing struggle for equality and justice in America.
This brings us to the power of popular culture.
Oh,
to shape our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's about how those cultural narratives can either reinforce existing power structures or challenge them and create new possibilities.
It's fascinating to see how the conversation around Captain America
has evolved,
reflecting
those changing social and political landscapes.
And this conversation is far from over.
It's not.
As long as we grapple with identity
Justice.
And the meaning of America.
Captain America will remain a potent symbol and a catalyst for debate and discussion. So where does this leave us? We've unpacked the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the evolution of Captain America, and the implications of a Black man assuming this iconic role. What resonates with you the most?
For me, it's the power of representation and the necessity of challenging traditional narratives. Sam Wilson becoming Captain America isn't just symbolic. It reflects changing social values and the demand for greater diversity and inclusion in our cultural icons.
I completely agree. It underscores the power of these stories and characters to shape our worldview and inspire us to envision a better future. They can challenge our assumptions, confront uncomfortable truths, and ignite essential conversations about who we are as a nation and what we aspire to be.
In a world that often feels divided and uncertain, that's a potent force. It brings us to a pivotal question raised by our deep dive. Does having a black Captain America truly challenge the deeply rooted concept of American exceptionalism, or is it merely a symbolic gesture within a system that perpetuates inequality?
It's the core of the debate. Some see it as a powerful step towards dismantling racist narratives, while others argue it's a superficial fix, a band-aid on a much deeper wound. This is where it gets really interesting for you as a listener. Think about it. If representation alone isn't enough, what would constitute meaningful change? Does it lie in how the character is written, the stories he's in? Or does it require a broader societal shift beyond the realm of comics and movies?
These sources really challenge us to think critically. It's not just about enjoying a superhero story anymore. It's about analyzing how pop culture reflects and potentially influences our world. And that's where The Falcon and the Winter Soldier excels. It sparks these uncomfortable but crucial conversations, forcing us to examine our own beliefs about race representation and the very idea of America itself.
Precisely. And even the articles that criticize the show for not going far enough acknowledge that it has initiated a dialogue. And sometimes that's the most important step, breaking the silence, getting people talking and thinking critically, because silence allows these issues to fester. By bringing them to the forefront, even in a fictional setting, Falcon and the Winter Soldier challenges us to confront them in our own lives.
So as we conclude this deep dive, having explored the evolution of Captain America, the complexities of Sam Wilson's journey, and the debates surrounding what it truly means to have a black man take on this mantle, what's your biggest takeaway for our listener?
For me, it's the realization that even our most cherished symbols are not static. They evolve alongside us, reflecting our changing values and understanding of the world. And perhaps they can even push us toward a more just and equitable future.
That's a powerful thought to leave our listener with. The evolution of Captain America is far from over. It's happening right now in the pages of comics on our screens, and most importantly, in the conversations we choose to have. So keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a world that lives up to the ideals embodied by those we call heroes.
And we hope this deep dive has given you some new perspectives and insights to consider as you continue to engage with these important conversations.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into the evolution of Captain America, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for listening to VSOW.